Hello, and thank you all once again for joining me today. Thank you to all the new listeners, and thank you to all of those who have rated and reviewed. It's immensely helpful, and it helps get the show some recognition, and for all that, I couldn't be more appreciative. I am your host, Travis Fenn, and this is Beneath the Shadows. I am recording again today from the darkness of the Shadow Realm, my office studio here in Ypsilanti, Michigan. If you haven't had the chance to rate or review yet, why not stop over there after today's episode and give the show 5 stars? Tell me something you love about life, love about your life. What are your favorite things to have on a charcuterie board? Kind of random, but tell me. Let me know. I'd love to hear about people. If you hate the show, well, do the do. Go on, give me 5 stars. Give me that 5-star rating. Tell me every last thing you hate about it. I would love that. Thank you so much. Next thing up, we have socials. Please go and follow the social media pages for the show on TikTok and Instagram, along with Patreon. You can also send email updates or topic suggestions to our Gmail. The name for TikTok and Instagram is Beneath the Shadows Podcast, and the Gmail is beneaththeshadowspodcast@gmail.com. And finally, the Patreon is just simply Beneath the Shadows. So go on and follow those. Send me some emails. I would love to hear from all of you. Thank you again for all of that. Now with the housekeeping out of the way, I say it's time to dive in deep, time to pull some details out of the shadows, and time to head to the last frontier, Alaska. Today, we will be headed to Alaska, as I had just mentioned, Anchorage to be specific. In 2019, the details of some horrific crimes would come to light after a sex worker named Valerie Casler turned in an SD memory card to police. The card carried graphic and terrifying images and videos of a murder and multiple women, with a male perpetrator's voice that could be heard throughout the videos. The man would soon be identified by police as he carried a distinctive accent and had previously been investigated on unrelated charges. A body would be discovered days later on Alaska's Seward Highway. Seward? S-E-W-A-R-D. Seward? Seward. Interesting. This body would soon be related to the 12 videos and 39 images on the memory card, and her body would be identified. Let's start from the beginning and unravel these details, and let's get going on today's topic. To begin, we will talk about some information brought to police in February of 2019, when family members of Veronica Abowchuk reported her missing. She was last seen at a place called Beans Cafe in October of 2018. After numerous failed attempts to contact her, her family decided to report her missing to the Anchorage police. 2 months later, in April of 2019, human remains would be found near mile marker 4.5 of the Old Glen Highway and recovered by police, though an identification would not happen at this time. The remains were that of a woman, and a bullet hole in the skull would be the obvious cause of death. Now, the months would continue to pass with no words on Veronica's whereabouts. Her family would grow increasingly concerned and start imagining the worst. Summertime would go by with no further details emerging surrounding Veronica or the body found in April. But police would certainly have more work coming ahead of them. The end of August passes by and the days start to shorten. A monster, lurking in the shadows, would soon strike. And this wouldn't be his first crime. No, he has killed before. On September 4th, he would kill his second victim and then continue on with life like nothing had changed. This married man enjoyed sex workers or people down on their luck, and he enjoyed violence. And mixing them together seemed to be his absolute forte. But an upcoming encounter with a sex worker would soon lead to his impending downfall. This encounter, somewhere around September 23rd, would be with a sex worker named Valerie Casler. Valerie, as I had mentioned above, being down on her luck, would end up stumbling upon a discovery that is gruesome and horrifying. Casler would copy these horrendous sites to an SD card and turn her discovery over to Anchorage police on September 30th. She was afraid of being arrested for theft of Smith's phone, and for prostitution. Both were misdemeanors. Casler didn't know that sex workers have immunity from prostitution charges when reporting heinous crimes. Thanks to the work and effort of Community United for Safety and Protection, addressing the issue and getting the prostitution statute modified in 2016 as part of SB 91, State Bill 91. Encouraging victims and witnesses to come forward and report violent predators in our communities is important. Letting the public know this is even a viable option is part of stopping serial killers like Brian Smith. Clients of sex workers don't have the same immunity from prostitution charges to report heinous crimes. Clients are first responders in cases of actual sex trafficking and can be the only people a trafficking victim is ever alone with to confide in. But they risk an embarrassing charge and news coverage that could have long-term effects on their careers and families if they report crimes like sex trafficking or murder. This year, in House Bill 265, legislators are considering modifying the immunity section of the prostitution statute, and they could choose to add clients to its protections. After viewing the tape, full of time-stamped images and videos, a suspect would immediately emerge. 3 days later, at 9:14 a.m. on October 2nd, another body of a woman would be discovered near milepost 108 on Alaska's Seward Highway. Police, having determined a main suspect in connection to the videos and photos on the memory card turned in by Valerie Casler, believed the woman in the videos is related to the remains found on the 2nd of October. Now was time to move. Now was time to get a warrant and make an arrest. And less than a week later, this exact scenario would play out. A warrant for the man's arrest for the charge of murder 1 was obtained on October 7th, 2019. On October 8th, 2019, around 3:30 p.m., Brian Stephen Smith was taken into custody at Ted Stevens International Airport. He was questioned by detectives and remanded at the Anchorage jail overnight on his outstanding warrant. Now, let's look into Brian, who he is, and how he ended up being arrested by Anchorage police. Brian Stephen Smith was born on March 23, 1971, in Queenstown, Eastern Cape, South Africa. It's officially known as Komani, I believe is how you say it. It's over by East London on the Eastern Cape. Smith became a naturalized citizen on September 20th of 2019. He lived in Alaska at least since 2014 when he married an Alaska woman named Stephanie Bisland on May 17, 2014. Bisland would state that she and Smith met through online gaming in February of 2013 and Skyped together for the first time in March of 2013 as the relationship grew. And let me tell you what, Stephanie is a piece of fucking work, that's for sure. Some of her quotes are fucking really pissed me right the fuck off. Yeah, Stephanie's something. I'll talk about her a little bit more towards the end of this episode. Brian would continue a relatively quiet life with his wife, living in Anchorage and working odd jobs. One of these jobs was at an area Spring Hill Suites by Marriott Hotel. This would include during those months before his arrest. Brian would even stay at a Marriott affiliate early in September from the 2nd to the 4th, which oddly aligned with some of the timestamps on the memory cards. The crime Brian was charged for was grossly shown in videos and photos that were turned over to police. The videos also happened to hold numerous other clues. These videos were determined by police to have occurred at the local Towns Place Suites by Marriott Hotel, and the voice on the tape was oddly distinctive and recognizable. It was that of Brian Smith, whose accent was distinguishable to police. 2 days after Brian's arrest, the identification of the second woman's body who was found would be revealed as Kathleen Jo Henry, age 30, of Anchorage, Alaska. Kathleen would also be connected to the videos on the memory card obtained by police. So now, let's dive into the details revealed on this memory card by the 12 videos and 39 photos. Let's take a deeper look at the life and death of Kathleen Henry. Kathleen Jo Henry was born on December 22, 1988 in Bethel, Alaska. An Alaskan Native woman from the Yupik Eskimo village of Eek? E-E-K? Yeah. Yupik Eskimo village of Eek. Henry obtained her GED in 2012 while incarcerated at Alaska's Highland Mountain Correctional Center, a state prison in the Anchorage neighborhood of Eagle River. A divorcee who was single at the time of her death, Henry struggled with addiction and criminal run-ins with law enforcement over the years. She was a frequent user of Facebook and other social media and enjoyed writing poetry. At the time of her death, she was 30 years old. Just going to give a little content warning. Some of this stuff coming up is a little gruesome, a little graphic. It describes some scenes from the videos that were on the SD card, some scenes that involve torture and killing, some scenes that revolve around Brian Smith being a horrendous, terrible fucking monster of a person. So just a little warning, and we'll dive into it. Her death, while not shown, was riddled with torture as a precursor. The photos and videos on the memory card would show this without a shadow of a doubt. It is said the first image on the SD card showed a female Alaskan native with dark hair lying on a floor next to a bed. The female is completely naked and on her back. The female's left eye was bruised and swollen shut. There was blood along the opening of her left eye. The female's right eye was partially open. The female's lips were bloody and blue. But the petrifying images would only lead to even more appalling videos. In the first video, the person filming was, quote, slapping and strangling the female with his right hand around her neck. In the second video, the man in the recordings talks, saying such things as, "My hands are getting tired," like a fucking douchebag. He proceeds to stomp on the female's throat with his right foot. The male voice can be heard saying, "You need to fucking die, bitch," and just fucking die. The male has some sort of an English accent. Just the fucking monster, the fucking... I wish Alaska had the death penalty, because this fucking monster, horrific, terrible, terrifying, ghoulish fucking person, Brian Smith, would definitely have gotten the death penalty, but they do not have it, and I'm very sad about that. Especially someone who does stuff like this, it's definitely who deserves that death penalty. This fucking monster was making accounts of his gruesome, horrible actions, some sort of sick trophies that he wanted to keep to relive these dastardly doings at a later time. In another video, Smith was described as singing Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Thunderstruck! Fucking just ruining music, too. This guy. While toying with Henry, strangling her with a wire and saying, "You live, you die. You live, you die. You live, you die." Sadly, in my movies, everyone dies. Which is fucking terrifying. So fucking terrifying. It gives me chills. If you listen to that actual audio, which I might include later on, I have to decide. Gives me chills when you hear it. I can't even imagine being a jury member in this trial. They actually got to view this video, not just hear it, but actually watch this. In the same video, Kathleen can be heard groaning in pain as her life is slowly being taken from her. People deserve to know when they're being serial killed, Smith would further state. Jesus Christ. Whew. Brian Smith, during trial, watched intently as these videos played, never taking his eyes off the screen. He would continue on the video saying, "Do people have to be taught how to die these days? Thousands of fucking years of evolution? You're not ready to die?" The absolute disregard for human life, thinking people are lesser than him. This man needs to be taken off this earth. He's in his 50s now or some shit. He needs to just be 6 feet under at this point. The last images on the card were taken early on September 6th and showed Henry's body in the back of a black pickup, according to charging documents. Location data showed that at the time the photo was taken, Smith's phone was in the area of Rainbow Valley Road along the Seward Highway of south of Anchorage, the same area where Henry's body was found several weeks later, police said. Alongside these absurd and appalling visuals were photos of other beaten women and possibly deceased women. 2 of them, to be exact. Brian Smith would be confronted with these images and intensely questioned for hours by Anchorage police over the next days. During the interrogations, Smith would offer up some additional invaluable and shocking evidence. He had killed another woman, and he went on to identify her, Veronica Abowchuk, from a photo and to provide the location of her remains along the Old Glen Highway north of Anchorage. With no prompting, he tells the troopers in the bathroom, "I'm going to make you famous," District Attorney Brittany Dunlop said during a court hearing. He comes back in and says, "You guys got some more time? You want to keep talking?" and then discloses the other murder. Alaska State Troopers in 2018 incorrectly identified another body as that of Abowchuk because Abowchuk's ID had been discovered with the remains for reasons that still remain unclear. But with the information Smith provided, investigators re-examined the case and used dental records to confirm a skull with a bullet wound found in the area Smith identified was Abowchuk's, authorities have said. Now, just over a week after his arrest for the murder of Kathleen Henry on October 17th, Smith would be charged with an additional murder, that of Veronica Abowchuk. This charge, and Smith's initial admission, would be just the start of a long healing process for the Abowchuk family. Information about what led to Abowchuk's death would also surface. Smith was working as a maintenance worker at an Anchorage hotel when he met Abowchuk, who had experienced homelessness and addiction. He offered her a warm meal and a place to sleep while his wife was out of town in 2018. Smith would tell authorities that he took Abowchuk to his house and was not satisfied with her personal hygiene, so he asked her to shower. When Abowchuk refused this request, Smith took out a .22 pistol and shot her in the head. Because he's a fucking monster. This fucking horrific person of your dreams type fucking monster. A monster, a horrible person, a piece of garbage that should be wiped off the face of this earth. It would take nearly 4.5 years to take Brian Smith to trial due to the nature of many murder cases with regular delays, continuances, and appeals involving evidence, witnesses, and more. Things take a while to come together. During this time, COVID-19 would also cause the trial to be prolonged even further. Finally, after years of waiting for the trial to commence, it would get underway on the week of February 4th, 2024, just over 6 months ago. Almost 7 at this point, actually, as we record. Today being, August 31st, the last day of August. Show comes out tomorrow, actually. Looking forward to that. This is episode 4, though, recording ahead of time, about 3 weeks ahead of schedule. So we'll see how it goes. Hoping everyone loves it so far. As the trial progressed, a main point of contention was how Valerie Casler came to obtain the SD card containing the ghastly imagery. Under questioning from the prosecution, Casler said she met Smith in September of 2019. She says he picked her up in his black truck from behind the car store at Gamble Street and East 13th Ave, and that the pair drove around town together while she drank flavored vodka out of a Gatorade bottle. Classy. She told the jury that eventually Smith went to a Shell gas station ATM machine to get money for her. At that time, Casler testified she had been living in a tent behind Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. Casler initially told police she had found a memory card containing the gruesome images on a street in Anchorage. She later changed her story, and Wednesday, the week of the trial, testified that she stole Smith's phone from his truck and that she had transferred the pictures to an SD card, which she admitted to stealing from a grocery store, and labeled the SD card homicide at Midtown Marriott. Or Marriott, I guess it is, right? Homicide at Midtown Marriott. Casler said she initially lied about it because she did not want to be arrested for theft or attempted prostitution. Casler testified that she later lost the phone when she tripped while walking in the woods. Casler also said that she knew the victim, Kathleen Henry, but wasn't able to recognize her in the videos because of her injuries. Investigators would find additional devices in Smith's home containing deleted images and videos of Abowchuk's alleged murder. The trial would take 18 days in total, and on February 22, 2024, it would take a jury less than 2 hours, just filling out paperwork, go and vote one time, fill out your fucking paperwork, to find Smith guilty on all 14 charges counts he was charged with. Practically, the amount of time for the jurors to fill out the paperwork, like I said. These included 2 counts of first-degree murder and numerous counts involving sexual assault in the second degree, tampering with physical evidence, and misconduct involving a corpse. With the trial concluded, sentencing would be set for nearly 5 months down the line, July 12th and July 19th, if needed, 2024. Smith could be sentenced to 99 years for each of the murders, along with additional time for the extra counts against him. Let's take a small detour to explore another piece of additional evidence portrayed during the trial of Brian Smith. A piece of evidence that points to an additional monster within the city of Anchorage. Now, a group of Native activists say police and prosecutors have unfinished business. They've called upon them to arrest Ian Calhoun, an Anchorage musician, who exchanged text and Facebook messages with Smith. So far, Calhoun has not been charged with any crime. During the trial, the prosecutor showed the jury a chain of texts to demonstrate how Smith had tried to get Calhoun to look at the body of Kathleen Henry, who Smith had killed in a Midtown hotel on September 4th of 2019. Before disposing of the 30-year-old woman's body, Smith carried it under a tarp in his pickup truck and drove to Forsyth Park, a playground near Calhoun's home on the Anchorage hillside. In a text, he invited Calhoun to meet him there. In one text, detectives said that Calhoun texted Smith, "I was not up. Sounds like you were having a lot of fun." Like, what? The detective said Smith replied, "I did have fun. Wanted to share." Like a psychopath. Stupid psychopath monster. The post included a link to a news story about the discovery of a body near some railroad tracks off the Seward Highway. Smith replied, "Oops," and Calhoun responded, "As soon as I saw it, I knew I should send you a text." Like, he knew what Smith fucking did. He fucking knew it. Allegedly, at least. It seems like he fucking knew it. Jesus. Yet he did not report it. And when asked to testify at trial with the chance to further bury Smith, he invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate himself. Like a fucking fool. A bashful fucking idiot. A stupid asshole that should likely be in prison as well. What else has this colossal sack of shit done? And what else does he know about? Frustration and irritation and so much fucking anger comes to me when talking about the details of this trial and of these murders. Alright, now to July of 2024 and the sentencing of Brian Stephen Smith. On July 12th, Smith would face Anchorage Superior Court Judge Kevin Saxby. Saxby would lay down the law to its fullest extent, sentencing Smith to the maximum of 99 years in each murder charge, plus an additional 28 years for the remaining charges, bringing the sentence total to 226 years. It's clear to me if he's released, he'll probably kill again, Judge Saxby would state. There is no hope, There is no restoration. There is only preventing Mr. Smith from killing again. Saxby continued. Why is it's so hard for me to say Saxby and then any other thing after it. I struggle so much. The only person to speak Friday morning during the sentencing was Christy Grimaldi. Grimaldi? Grimaldi. Christy Grimaldi. Veronica Abowchuk's daughter. True love never dies, Grimaldi said. Hilarious. Grimaldi. Grimaldi. I'm a dummy. Christy Grimaldi. Veronica Abowchuk's daughter. True love never dies, Grimaldi said about her mother. She also told the judge, I will do a dance on the day he dies. Hell yeah. Good for her. Good for you, Christy. Okay. With Brian Smith now locked up for the rest of his natural life, sentenced to 226 years for the murders of Kathleen Henry and Veronica Abowchuk, let's take a look at some details about Brian Smith's wife, Stephanie Bisland. Like I said, she's a piece of fucking work, and she got me kind of pissed off researching this case. According to everything I could find, Bisland was born in 1950 and is now 74 years old, over 20 years older than Brian. Bisland was born in Alaska and has spent her entire life in the state. With her husband now prison-bound for his eternity, Bisland would have to face the reality of what her husband has done. Would she divorce him, stop talking to him forever, not show up to court and stop supporting him? Nah, fuck no. Of course not. In fact, this bitch has made quotes that make me want to punch her in her old lady face. To start, a few comments that Bisland made in 2019 following the arrest of Brian. In an interview with KTUU, an Anchorage news company, Bisland would state, "It is a terrible thing that happened to this girl. Pray for both of them. The family of the poor woman, and for him. He also is in a dark place and needs to see the light. He needs to see, the white light and be fucking taken up to meet his maker and sent back down to hell where he belongs." Terrible Satanist type fucking person. Straight from hell. Bisland would continue to support Smith, even working as a spokesperson for him while he's been locked up. Some people are hot on why I haven't divorced him, why I would stand behind him, why visit. I am his wife. I take care of his welfare. Now he is mending. I can do things for him, Bisland would exclaim. Like a fucking psychopath. I mean, if you know what he's done, if you've heard the things that he's done, I don't know how you could stay with him. I don't know how you could, anyone, not just him, just anyone. If someone did anything like this, you should not stay with them. And she would continue, divorce is not in the cards. I said my vows. This bitch, this fucking stupid bitch. What in any person's mind would make you want to stay with such a horrific monster like Brian Smith? It's sickening. Bisland sat in that courtroom. She heard those tapes and heard the sounds of Kathleen Henry die at her husband's hands, and she still vows to stay with his worthless sack of fucking cat and dog shit ass. Fucking terrible, monstrous person needs to die. I hate Brian Smith, hate everything about him, hate what he's done in his lifetime in the last fucking at least 10 years since he's been in the United States. Garbage. We will end this little section about Bisland with the last set of quotes. He was very good for me, but he had another life, I guess, Bisland expressed, adding his problems were likely worsened by heavy drinking. Bisland would say when he was first jailed, he was in a very dark place. But he got better, she said. All fucking better now. I'm sure you can let him out because he's all fucking better. He's all good to go. Get him out of there. I don't know why he's locked up. He's all better. She plans to write him and visit him while he is in prison. So just forever until she dies, I guess. And with that, to avoid assaulting a senior citizen, let's get to wrapping up this crazy, atrocious, and dreadful topic, and let's head into this week's main marks. So, main marks this week. Number 1. In 2019, Anchorage police would receive an SD card with disturbing images and videos on it from a sex worker named Valerie Casler. Number 2, in the videos, a man's voice could be heard, and due to his unique accent, police were quickly able to distinguish a perpetrator in this crime. Number 3, Brian Stephen Smith, the man police identified, would admit to the murder of Veronica Abowchuk while in police custody during his interrogation about the death of Kathleen Henry. Number 4, additional monsters may be lurking in Anchorage, Alaska, and sadly, all over the world. During trial, it was revealed that Smith had tried to contact a man named Ian Calhoun to show him Henry's remains. Though it is unsure whether Calhoun ever actually saw them or not, while he may have not seen Henry's remains, it is almost certain that Calhoun knew about what Smith had done before he was arrested for the crime. Here's a little quote, too. While the person's actions were unethical and reprehensible, there is no evidence that Smith was aided in any way by this text message exchange. Under Alaska law, there is no general duty for citizens to report a crime or to aid law enforcement or the criminal justice system. To be found guilty of hindering prosecution under any provision of Alaska Statutes 11.56.770, the person must render assistance to the guilty party. At this point, we do not have proof beyond a reasonable doubt that any assistance was rendered to Brian Smith. That's from the Alaska Beacon. And number 5, 2 separate pieces of extra, newspaper information. 2 separate pieces of extra information surrounding this case. Let's tackle these 2 in chronological order here. So first off, in April of 2024, a federal grand jury in Alaska returned an indictment charging a South African national with unlawfully procuring nationalization in the U.S., which was Brian Stephen Smith. According to court documents, between June and September 2019, Brian Stephen Smith, 52, applied for and obtained naturalization in the U.S. by making false statements in connection to his naturalization application. Smith allegedly falsely responded to questions asking whether he had been involved in a killing, badly hurting, or sexually assaulting someone, and if he ever committed, assisted in committing, or attempted to commit a crime he was not arrested for. Smith obviously answered no to all these questions, when at the time of the application he had committed related crimes, including 2 murders that involved torture and sexual assaults. Smith was convicted of these crimes in February of 2024 in the Superior Court for the state of Alaska. Smith is charged with 1 count of unlawful procurement of naturalization in violation of 18 U.S.C. United States Code, I believe that is what that is, 1425A, and 1 count of unlawful procurement of naturalization by an ineligible person in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1425B. The defendant will make his initial court appearance on a later date before a U.S. magistrate judge of the United States District Court for the District of Alaska. If convicted, he faces the revocation of his certificate of naturalization. Now, second shorter one. On July 11th, prosecutors released photographs of a possible 3rd victim in the case of Brian Smith. The photographs show a woman, possibly Alaskan native as well, on the ground spattered with blood and dirt, appearing to be either dead or unconscious. The new images came from a cell phone Anchorage police detectives seized at the Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport in 2019 when they arrested Smith. The court filing also included a sketch from a forensic artist to give a better idea of what the woman might have looked like based on facial recognition of the cell phone images. Okay, with our main marks wrapping up, out of the way, let's hop into our final takeaway. So this week on Beneath the Shadows, we saw Brian Smith fight the law, and the law won. Brian Smith would be involved in at least 2 murders of Alaskan Native women between 2018 and 2019, and was arrested in 2019 after an SD card was turned in by a sex worker named Valerie Casler. The SD card would contain gruesome images and videos and a man's distinctive accent, which would be linked directly to Brian Smith. Brian Smith would be arrested late in 2019 and would eventually be brought to court in 2024, February of 2024, where he was found guilty on 14 charges, including 2 murder charges, sexual assault charges, and a handful of others. Brian Smith would then be sentenced in July of 2024 this year to 226 years and will spend the rest of his natural life in court rotting away because he's a fucking dirtbag. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Next week on Beneath the Shadows, we will dive into a mysterious, unknown, not very unknown, but mysterious, unsolved, I guess is what I was going for. Next week, we will dive into a mysterious and unsolved case from West Virginia. We will talk about the Sodder family and the missing Sodder children. What happened to the 5 children of the Sodder family that disappeared on Christmas morning, I guess, of 1945. George and Jenny Sodder would have 10 children, and 5 of them would die during a fire on Christmas Eve into Christmas morning of 1945. Mysterious circumstances behind the fire, behind the disappearances, would lead to many questions coming up and would lead to years, decades of searching and solving and looking for clues that may have never existed. A billboard, a picture, a link to the Sicilian mob, possibly. We will all figure it out next week as we dive into the Sodder family. Once again, I want to say thank you for joining me today. This is Beneath the Shadows. Please check out social media. There is TikTok and Instagram up for the show. The name on both of those is Beneath the Shadows Podcast. There is also a Gmail with the same name, Beneath the Shadows Podcast @gmail.com, and a Patreon you can follow. I will be releasing shorter episodes each week, hopefully, or maybe twice a month on Patreon, maybe some 15, 20-minute little doohickey episodes. Please give those a follow. Please give a rating and a review if you have not yet. They are immensely helpful. 5 stars. Tell me something you love about yourself, love about life. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Tell me who your favorite author is, or what comes to your mind when you see clouds in the sky. I appreciate you being here so much. I can't say enough good things about the people who listen to the show because you're supporting me in a way that I've never been supported before. I'm building with you guys as much as you are with me, so thank you for that support. Next week, we will come back and we will get it going on the Sodder family. So thank you again. This is Beneath the Shadows. I am Travis Fenn. Have a good day, my shadow people. Peace. Wow.